just gonna be totally honest. The first couple years of my creative business, I had no idea what I was doing. It was a total mess. I was undercharging. I felt deeply uncomfortable selling. It took me years of making no money and probably actually losing money to figure out what actually works. And these 10 lessons that I want to share with you in this video are not the lessons that I thought that I would learn, but if I had to travel back in time and give myself just absolutely brutal business advice, this would be it. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and let's get started. Lesson number 1 is to not be so afraid of pausing your creative practice to focus on the business side of things. You are going to come back to it, okay? First of all, you're gonna come back to it. Your creative practice is a part of you, a really important part of you. It is why you got into this game. But sometimes the business side of your business will take priority, and that's just how this job works sometimes. Last fall, I hit this kind of point in my business where I had to take a break from painting for 6 to 8 weeks to finish writing my new book, because that 6-week writing and design sprint created a product that is on track to make more money than every single product I have created in the past 5 years combined. And here's the thing that not a lot of folks seem to really understand. When you have this as your job, there are gonna be times where you're gonna have to focus on one thing over the other, and that's not bad. That's just a part of it. That is building actual sustainable infrastructure for yourself to give yourself more creative freedom down the road. It's not a bad thing at all to be a little imbalanced in the short term, especially if you are making actual, tangible progress in your business. Lesson number 2 is that the biggest thing holding creatives back is not talent and it's not audience size, it's a fear of sales. I have had probably dozens, if not going on 100, one-on-one calls with creatives, and I see the same pattern basically all the time. There are these incredibly talented creative people that are struggling financially despite having everything you would think they need. They have the immense talent, they have an audience, they have a product. And I'm talking about folks with 100,000 followers on Instagram that struggle to pay their bills, or people whose Domestica courses have had 30,000 students, but they're still battling serious imposter syndrome. And by the way, those examples are from folks that I have actually worked with myself one-on-one. I didn't make those up. Those are real people I have talked to. And you know what the missing link is? Every single time, they're not selling. They're held back by this ick field they have around selling their work. They're worried they'll annoy their audience, or that their work isn't good enough yet, whatever that means. Or they tried promoting one time, and it didn't work immediately, so they wrote it all off, they gave up, they got scared, and they never tried again for whatever reason. It's crazy to me. It's like the floor is made of $100 bills, and they're just not picking them up. There's all this money on the table, and they're like, no, I couldn't possibly take that money, Kelsey. That would be crazy. The truth is that the difference between a struggling creative and a successful one rarely comes down to talent or audience size. After a certain point, your art skills just genuinely have absolutely no bearing on your success. I wish that wasn't true, but go out in the world and look, it just empirically is. The actual thing that differentiates a successful artist from a struggling one is very often how comfortable you are with selling your work. It does not have to be manipulative or gut-wrenching or icky or gross. You are just talking about the value your work provides and giving a very simple call to action of how someone can get their hands on it if they want to do that. Are you manipulating them? No. Are you forcing them to purchase your work? Absolutely not. You are just communicating that value and letting them know where they can find it. That is it. This part of you that is afraid of annoying your audience by selling to them, you have to lock it in a closet and throw away the key. It is just holding you back. I actually recently taught a whole workshop on how to get a little more comfortable with sales as a creative and how to make selling super simple for yourself. And if you want to grab the recording of that and also get the worksheets that come with it, I will leave a link in the description. And see, that's sales. That's all that sales is. I just did it right then. You just watch me do that. Doesn't have to be hard. Lesson number 3. You cannot expect trust from your audience. You have to earn it. And the way that you earn trust is by showing the value you provide. So let's talk about the creative business space for a second, because I gotta tell you, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of people in this industry. I don't know, it's something about them, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. It's really full of sketchy people that are promising a lot and delivering basically nothing of real value. That really bothers me. When I began teaching creative business and marketing, just kind of talking about my own experiences as a creative person that has managed to take this full time, I realized that the default assumption or the default state of someone's audience is not trust. It is a very healthy distrust, and rightfully so. People have been burned so many times by folks that promise them the world and just deliver them basically nothing. It's like empty air. And that's a huge reason why I make these free videos, why I make a point of doing free one-on-one calls every so often, why I give free feedback in my series, Business Breakthrough, and why I share testimonials literally everywhere on my website. I want you to believe me when I say stuff. If I wanted people to take me seriously, I had to prove that I knew what I was talking about. And I'm not afraid of showing that proof. I'm not afraid of getting that proof. I view it as a thing that I really look forward to. It really excites me personally. And I think when it comes to business, when it comes to your audience, you cannot expect trust. Especially as an educator, you have to earn that trust. You have to deliberately communicate your value and what you provide as an educator to your audience, especially if you are selling educational content or premium products. You have to heavily invest in showing people your expertise and communicating that you genuinely want them to succeed. Basically, you have to treat your audience like a feral cat that you are slowly winning the trust of, but understand that your trust bar is basically starting off at -500. If you are teaching an intro to art licensing, show your own results with this. Pull up the payments. Give us the numbers. If you are teaching watercolor basics for beginners, show us the before and the afters of your students' work. This is not, in my opinion, just ethical. It's not just the right thing to do. It is a very smart business decision to make. If you can do the, in my opinion, somewhat simple thing of just communicating that you deliver what you promise, that you don't make crazy claims, and that people do trust and value your work, you have set yourself apart in a huge way. You have done something that a lot of your competitors will be completely unable to do. Showcasing testimonials throughout your website is a great way to do this, and personally, I have them everywhere. You cannot escape my website without, in all likelihood, seeing a testimonial, and that is by design. And this is made super, super simple by the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Speaking of building a stable foundation for your creative business, today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. You've probably heard quite a few Squarespace ad reads. You know Squarespace has an easy-to-use interface and makes it a total breeze to create a custom site tailored to your brand. But did you know that Squarespace and their tax jar integration can even make your life easier during tax season? When you're selling products or services online, keeping track of sales tax can be a total nightmare. Trust me, I know, especially if you are selling to customers in different states or countries with different tax rules. But with Squarespace, all of my sales data is organized in one place. So when it's time to file taxes, I can easily generate reports of all of my transactions, revenue, and collected taxes, making it super simple to share accurate information with my accountant. To everything from having a gorgeous website, easy to use e-commerce and online course features, and integrated email marketing, Squarespace can be the home for everything you are doing online. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Kelsey Rodriguez or use code Kelsey Rodriguez at checkout for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Lesson number 4 is that getting real about your finances might be boring, but it will transform your business. So last year, I got kind of blindsided during tax season. I really messed up. I underpaid my quarterly estimated taxes over the course of the year by a lot. I ended up owing the IRS an extra $10,000 that I had not anticipated, and like a lot of people, I don't just have $10,000 like sitting around or whatever, you know what I mean? That was significant for me. It was very real, and it exposed a really important flaw in my business, which was that I did not have my money together. I did not have a really well-stocked emergency fund that would be able to take care of me in situations like that. This financial surprise exposed bigger problems in my business. My expenses were too high. I was not saving enough, and I didn't have a large enough emergency fund to pay for things like big tax bills or unexpected medical expenses. I had to scramble to figure out how to pay this thing while also keeping my business running, and it was not fun. But it forced me to get really serious about my finances in a way that I'd been avoiding. So I would recommend that you not wait for your own tax disaster. Figure out exactly how much you would need to sell at what price points to meet your financial goals, and then double that figure to account for taxes, expenses, and unexpected costs. And ideally, you should create an entirely separate account just for your tax payments. Build up that emergency fund and regularly review where your money is actually going. Really genuinely avoiding this stuff will make your life worse. It is worth it to engage just a little bit with it and see where it takes you. After my tax disaster last year, I developed a pretty straightforward check-in system. So every so often, ideally once a month, I ask myself the following: is my business revenue trending toward my goal for the year? If not, what course corrections do I need to make? And did any unexpected expenses come up this month? And are there things that I can do to better prepare for similar events in the future? And what products or services made me the most money this month, and why? Are there, things that I should be doubling down on there? And finally, question number 4, are there easy wins I am currently leaving on the table in my business? Try these questions out, okay? See how they go. And I can almost guarantee that they will help you make more money in your business. Lesson number 5 is to not sleep on email marketing. I wrote off email marketing for a long, long time. I thought that it was outdated and unnecessary and that I knew better. I did not know better, actually. No, everyone that was telling me to do email marketing was right, and I was wrong. I was really, really wrong. I kept thinking that I would just push it off until later, that I would get to it eventually, and then eventually just kept not arriving, as it usually does, you know what I mean? And finally, last fall, I hit a point where I had a lot of anxiety, and I had a ton of chronic fatigue happening. I had a lot of medical stuff going on, and to be honest with you, I just couldn't bring myself to film these videos. I could not do it for the camera. Like, I could not talk like this. I could not be myself, and I definitely could not spend hours and hours editing all of this footage myself. It was just not possible. And that was tricky because I had just launched my book, and like I always say, to get consistent sales, you have to sell consistently, right? And if I couldn't film videos, I wasn't sure how I would be able to sell consistently. If I couldn't film videos, I wasn't sure what my content would even look like. And then I remembered that email marketing existed, and that was great for me. I finally had a solution to my problem. So I revived my email newsletter, and I just watched as the results started pouring in. I started writing a weekly email newsletter to promote my book. Nothing fancy, just heartfelt business advice and updates on my creative practice. And at the end of every single email, I would have a very short, just small sales pitch. Nothing fancy. Really just 3 things. Number 1, the thing that I made, why I made it, or who it's for, some, nugget of value that it provides, or I would try to connect it back to the thing that I had written the email newsletter about. And then finally, what problem it solves and how they could get their hands on it. And doing those simple things just completely changed everything for me. Suddenly, I was getting sales with every single email. The results just completely changed my perspective on email marketing. Suddenly, my sales were consistently going up. They were consistently spiking, and it had nothing to do with my YouTube channel and everything to do with my ability to sell via email. Email was just converting better for me. Within just 3 months, my email list had generated over $20,000 in revenue with way less effort than my video content required. So if there's any lesson to take away from this video, it is to not overlook old school or lame marketing tools because you think you know better. Probably you don't actually know better, and it's at least worth it to give it a really serious try before you write it off completely. Lesson number 6 is to not be afraid of pivoting. I never really set out to teach creative entrepreneurship and business like this. This is not what I thought my channel would be when I first started. But then I released a few educational videos during my first 2 years, and something interesting happened. People loved them. Not only did I genuinely enjoy creating that type of content, but you all connected with it and my teaching style in a way that I never anticipated. You saw something in me that I had yet to even recognize in myself. The lesson here is to pay close attention when something you create gets an unexpectedly positive response. Be willing to follow that energy, even if it leads you away from your original plan. The sweet spot is almost always what you enjoy doing creatively and what your audience also really enjoys. If you can find that middle ground, like the center of that Venn diagram, go for it. Lesson number 7 is to not be afraid of setting your own schedule, even if the hours are a little bit unusual. So I was raised by my grandma. My grandma is the most dedicated, motivated, self-disciplined person I have ever met. She has worked remotely for over 20 years. She gets up every single day, usually before 6 a.m., and works well into the night. And personally, I can't do that. That is not how I want to run my business. That's not how my brain even functions. It's not how my body works. I cannot do that. So some days, I sleep until 9, read a book until 11, make lunch, and start working around noon. And maybe I'll work until 3 o'clock, or maybe I'll work until midnight. Truly, no one knows. And that's okay. That is genuinely actually really okay. I think one of the greatest advantages of running your own creative business is the freedom to work according to your own body's clock. As long as your work gets done, your customers are happy, and your relationships are not suffering, lean into this flexibility. Don't feel guilty about working beyond regular working hours as long as you're not overextending yourself and getting burnt out. Make this flexibility a superpower. Because it is. Being able to work from, 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., if that is truly the time where you get the most done, that's great. That's awesome. Lean into that. Lesson number 8 is to learn the difference between constructive critique and genuine hate comments and trolling, because getting bad comments on the internet is an inevitability. Yes, of course, the vast majority of comments on the internet are positive. I made a whole video about all of the lovely comments that I've received over the past 5 years or so, but there are gonna be a couple of bad apples in the bushel. It's the way that it is, right? And I think it's really important to understand the difference between constructive critique and genuine trolling or hate comments that are just there to hurt you. There is a difference between those two things, and one you should pay attention to, the other you should not. Constructive criticism can be blunt and a little hurtful, but it is ultimately kind. That person wants you to do better and to succeed. It is specific and actionable, and even if it stings, it is a thing that you can use to get better. Toxic comments are more vague, right? They often attack you rather than the work itself. They give no real constructive feedback, and they are ultimately just unhelpful. I think it's really important to recognize that toxic comments are often not about you or your work. They're usually, to be honest, more of a reflection of the person that's leaving the comment than they are about you even at all. They're usually made by folks that have, just had a bad day, or are jealous of your success or your skill, or even just enjoy being mean. There are people out there that really just enjoy being mean. And as someone that is defensive by nature and a chronic people pleaser, and has also received my fair share of stuff like this over the years, my rule of thumb is very simple. If I can take action on the feedback to improve my work, I consider it, right? But If it's just calling me names, no, I ignore that. And I think you should too. You should absolutely ignore the stuff that's just being mean to you. That's not going to help you, your mental health, or your work get better. I recommend that you spend some time thinking about your own rule of thumb here, what you want your own red line to be. But don't let this fear of internet strangers stop you from building something truly amazing. Because genuinely, for every one comment that is mean or hurtful, you are going to get like 9 or 10 or 20 even really lovely, genuine, constructive, kind, thoughtful comments that engage with your work and support you as a person. I would not deprive yourself of all of that lovely connection, of that meaning, of that fulfillment, because you are concerned about someone saying something mean. Lesson number 9 is to be extremely vigilant of lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is essentially the tendency for your expenses to rise as your income does. When my business began generating significant revenue, I found myself justifying increasingly expensive purchases and treating myself to luxuries that quickly became necessities but weren't ever really. Like, getting myself DoorDash twice a week is not a need, that's very much a want or like an unnecessary luxury. And before I realized it, my expenses had risen to match my new income, leaving me with very little additional security despite earning more. And as your business grows, you have to very deliberately maintain a gap between your income and your expenses. You will be tempted. You will be tempted. It is hard to do this, but it is very much worth it. Before upgrading your lifestyle, increase your savings, right? Build that emergency fund that I talked about earlier on in this video and invest in the future of your business. Have that high yield savings account. Fill up that retirement fund. Like, really take actions to safeguard your future before you get a fancy new car or buy a house. I think keeping your expenses as low as possible is really, really worth it. Like, this job in particular is so unstable by its very nature. When you have a business, like, everything is ultimately, it all comes down to you. It all comes down to how productive you are, how lucky you get, how much work you create. And that's really stressful, right? You are responsible for all of your own income or revenue, and yes, that has a ton of opportunity attached. It means there is no, ceiling to how much you can make, but there's also no floor either. And that's a little bit nerve-wracking for a lot of people. I think it is worth it to be very conservative when it comes to your finances, to be a little bit wary, to save aggressively, because ultimately, you're just going to put yourself in a better, more stable situation down the road. Lesson number 10 might be a little bit of an attack, but it's to not get lost in endless research and be willing to take action before you feel 100% ready. I know that a lot of folks that watch my videos are doing it because they really want to start a business, but they feel really nervous about it, right? They have all of this analysis paralysis that is kind of the name of the game when it comes to these early stages of business. And while yes, research is good and knowing what you are getting into is great, but do you have to have everything figured out before you start? No. Are you ever going to feel 100% ready? No. Is it worth it to maybe be a little bit uncomfortable? To actually start taking some actions? Probably, yeah. Probably. If I had been unwilling to ever make any mistakes, if I had been unwilling to ever be uncomfortable, I wouldn't be here. And I think it is worth it to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, to be okay with knowing that you will make mistakes, that you will not have everything figured out, and it does not have to be perfect. Your content, your marketing, your products, they don't have to be perfect. You will learn what works. You will learn what works for you and your own business by doing it, by taking actions. There is truly nothing better for your skills as a creative business person than to actually have a business and to actually be able to make choices. Yeah, I don't know, a little long-winded. This video was a time to record. I've been recording for almost an hour. Probably it's only gonna be a fraction of that at the end, but I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you struggle with analysis paralysis, if you struggle with taking action, you're probably gonna wanna watch this video somewhere on the screen right now, and I hope to see you there.